Okay, hello, and welcome to this eSchool News webinar, AI in the Classroom, Supporting Innovative Teaching and Increased Productivity. My name is Kevin Hogan. I am the editor-at-large for eSchool News, and I am happy you are joining us today for what I know will be a very insightful and important conversation. This event is brought to you by Promethean. Promethean is a leading education technology company working to transform the way the world learns and collaborates. From their founding in Blackburn, England, almost 25 years ago, to their global operations in 22 countries today, they have continued to explore, innovate, and inspire, designing learning and collaboration tools that are built for breakthroughs. Their award-winning interactive display, Active Panel, and lesson delivery software, Active Inspire and ClassFlow, were designed to engage students, connect colleagues, and bring out the brilliance in everyone. Now, before we get to our conversation, I'd like to take a minute and go over some features of the platform that we're using for this webinar. This event is being recorded, so you don't have to worry about missing a thing. Within a few days, you'll receive an email message that contains a link to the recorded webinar, along with a PDF of the slides. If you have a question or comment for the panelists, there's a chat function that you can launch by clicking on chat. Feel free to use this feature to contact someone from the eSchool News team if you have a technical question as well. And I really would encourage the audience to really just feel free to ask questions or share ideas, as I really think it helps bring the conversation to life. And while we have Levi here, we might as well tap as many insights as we can from him. So with these housekeeping items out of the way, let's get started with our conversation and introduce Levi. Levi Belnap serves as Chief Strategy Officer at Merlyn Mind. As a serial entrepreneur, Levi has led the creation of innovative new technology ventures within existing organizations and as an independent venture-backed startup. Prior to joining Merlyn Mind, Levi was the VP of Business Development and Strategic Partnerships at Wyzant, where he helped build a platform to connect millions of students and tutors for additional learning support. Levi studied disruptive innovation under the late Professor Clayton Christensen at Harvard Business School. He has dedicated his professional career to applying theories of innovation to the intersection of technology and education to improve teaching and learning and create a better world for all of us. So Levi, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to catching up.
Kevin, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be part of the conversation.
And I know, we've had conversations before about many different aspects of things, but one thing I wanted to kind of get out of the way as we start here is to get a definition or a description of what AI really means. So I've written about education technology for a long time, especially in the education space. Many times I would see that educators were kind of worried about artificial intelligence. It kind of has a science fiction aspect to it, right? I mean, they've seen Tom Cruise in Minority Report. They have some concerns about maybe how technology and bots and artificial intelligence will take away from their work as a teacher, especially in the professional space. And I know a lot of that was hopefully wiped away during the pandemic, where people began to see the benefits of that great beta test that we went through, which involved the use of technology assisting. But why don't you give us your cocktail party definition of what artificial intelligence is in the education space?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. I have learned from experts here at Merlyn Mind that artificial intelligence is often misinterpreted by everyone, even including experts, but for sure those of us who don't build AI solutions on a daily basis. We often get our definitions from popular media, from movies, from other things like that. If I am at a party with somebody and they're asking me what I do and they ask about AI in the classroom, I basically talk about how AI means computers are now doing things that humans used to have to do, right? So it doesn't mean that we're creating computers that are human or that even have anywhere close to the ability to do human things that make us as a species truly unique, right? that have allowed us to have the progress that we've enjoyed on this planet. But it does mean things like seeing things that we see. Historically, we had the eyesight to be able to see with vision and kind of understand, oh, that's a moving vehicle, that's a dog, that's a cat. We had this ability to see the physical world and then understand it in our brains. AI is allowing computers now to do that, to see things and understand what they are. It's allowing computers to speak and hear the way that our brains allow us to speak and hear. And that is a really powerful function. It doesn't mean that the computer is now human, but it has one more ability to do things with us, for us, potentially in support of us, or so that we don't have to do them, that require the ability to see and speak. And similarly, I think the other real advancement is in this idea of problem solving, thinking, right? So computing information and drawing conclusions. Human brains are very, very good at that. And computers historically have been very, very good at computing large amounts of data, but not necessarily at having insights or understanding trends that would have taken kind of a human brain to do that. So these are some of the ideas, like when you talk about what is AI, well, it's really about like allowing humans now to depend on computers to do things that used to take a human to do it.
Got it. Now, dig us in a little deeper into the weeds, into the particulars of Merlyn Mind and what that means for artificial intelligence in the classroom.
Yeah, so this is a journey that we have been on for about at least a decade, really. So if you look at the founding of Merlyn Mind, it came from the IBM Watson team at the research labs at IBM that were building Watson AI solutions for education. They spent almost a decade there looking at how can we apply this really powerful AI platform that can do some of those things that humans do well. That can compute data, that can see the world, that can understand, that can potentially speak the human language. And now how can we bring that into the education world? Well, that really focused initially on intelligent tutoring systems and more or less trying to create a computer that acted like a teacher. Potentially for the kind of idea you talked about, almost replacing a teacher. Not necessarily saying we don't need teachers, but saying, what if you don't have a teacher available? What if a student's at home? What if a student's in a rural area? What if a student doesn't have a teacher available? Is there a way that we could teach a computer to act like a teacher with AI? And the conclusion more or less was, it just doesn't really work. You have all these adaptive learning platforms and other solutions that try to emulate a teacher helping a student navigate their learning path. When they struggle, helping them identify the struggle, fix that misunderstanding, and then move forward. But what we learned, and what we kind of know intuitively as humans, is teaching is so incredibly human, right? There's all this emotion around, I trust my teacher, and the teacher has care and even love for that student and their progress. And then they understand the shared context of in this classroom, in this state, in this country, in this time of the year, all the different kind of metaphors and shared experiences that you can bring into teaching. AI is just not good at that, right? It doesn't understand that it's Friday and I'm burnt out after the week and we've had a hard week because of testing and all these other things are going on that are burdening the student and the teacher. And then we might just need a break today to kind of like learn in a way that's more human. AI doesn't get those things, right? And so that's where we realized, and the founders of the company, Satya Nitya and his co-founders, basically said, we've seen that AI is taking off in the consumer space with voice. People are starting to speak to computers. Let's not try to build a teacher. Let's not build a computer that can teach. That's just, it doesn't work. But what if we used AI to simplify the way humans, specifically teachers, interact with computers in the classroom so that their life could be easier, so that they could do less kind of mastering technology and more connecting and paying attention to students?
So not so much artificial intelligence to replace teachers, but maybe replace teacher assistants?
You see, that's an interesting, we actually thought that at the beginning. We thought, well, are we going to replace teacher assistants, right? Because that's not necessarily the intent either. And what we learned very, very quickly, we got Merlyn into classrooms that had teacher assistants. And what the teacher and the teacher assistant said was, amazing. Now we both have more time for the students.
Right.
Because I mean, if we really think about what the optimal schooling experience would be, really it's probably a human expert, mentor, teacher, coach, guide sitting next to every student 24/7, right? Like that much attention and care to that student's learning would be phenomenal. We just are resource constrained, right? We don't have enough people to sit next to every student. And so I think what basically you can look at Merlyn Mind is a solution that simplifies work in the classroom for teachers and students, so it's easier to teach and learn and get the most out of that shared time together. And every additional human you can bring in the room to help, fantastic. Merlyn just makes it easier for all of them to focus on emotional connections, instructional time, and less administrative work and just kind of technology management.
Well, it certainly seems to be solving a problem, an issue, which is even coming out of the pandemic as terrible as that was, is the teacher shortages, right? I mean, that there are thousands of districts across here, just in the United States alone, who are having problems having actual physical teachers in the classrooms at all. So I can only assume that you found that some of the services and products that Merlyn provides is helpful in that regard.
Yeah, so let's just be very clear and direct. We need amazing teachers. We need them in every room, in every school. We need them in every home, like parents kind of helping to coach and teach their children. We cannot get enough good teachers, and it's really sad how difficult the profession is right now, how much has been put on teachers, and it's unrealistic to expect one human to be able to do all of the things that are required of them as they manage 20 to 30 students and 20 to 30 devices and all of these different applications and all of the pre and post class work, not to mention the actual instructional time. So yes, we have seen that Merlyn decreases the burden on teachers in pandemic, post-pandemic, right? We've seen that having a digital assistant that is built for the classroom that now allows a teacher to speak and have their commands executed on their technology. So on their interactive panel, if they have a Promethean in the room, on their laptop, they can now ask for resources. Hey, Merlyn, open my presentation on today's lesson. And it can pop right up on the panel, and now they can interact with it and teach from it. That just makes it easier, right? So whether they're a technology expert or even afraid of technology, most people these days are pretty used to saying, hey Siri, hey Alexa, hey Google, some like voice assistant to get help. Now you can, in the classroom, say, hey Merlyn, start the video. Hey Merlyn, send this resource to my Google Classroom. And that's really bringing the classroom to the modern day. Like we're experiencing that in our homes, on our phones, in our cars, but most people aren't experiencing that in the classroom yet because you needed a specific solution built just for the classroom, and that's what Merlyn Mind did.
And I think you might have some resources that you can share with us to kind of give us that, like the day to day, and kind of give a life inside the classroom with Merlyn.
Yeah, and this is a really, I think, an interesting learning of ours is you kind of have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Like it sounds very abstract and theoretical, and so seeing what we're talking about here really brings this to life. So yeah, let me just kind of quickly show you what it looks like, and we'll watch a few videos too along the way to see it in practice in classrooms because I think that helps people get it. So as we went into education, we looked at why wasn't AI and voice control and digital assistants in the classroom, and what did it mean to bring that in the classroom? What would it take? And we learned very quickly, this was pre-pandemic, we went into classrooms, we talked to teachers, we talked to administrators, and we asked them, what would you do if you had voice control in the classroom? If you could just speak and the technology would do what you wanted it to do? What would that mean? How would it help? And what teachers told us universally, it was kind of a wake-up call to us, was, look, I don't need another app. I have so many amazing apps. There's incredible resources and tools that I use every day as a teacher that bring lessons to life, that help me engage students. They can walk up and interact on the Promethean board, right? All these different solutions are already in my classroom. But what I do need is just more help, right? I don't have enough hands. I can't be in enough places at the same time. In fact, many teachers said, I'm literally expected to be in 2 places at the same time, and I can't do that, right? So we looked at that and we said, okay, well, AI could be very, very good here. Because of speech and natural language processing, we could understand what teachers need in the moment with voice command. And then with automation and integration into the existing apps and tools and devices that are in the room, you could simplify a lot of the different, just kind of like everyday tasks and sometimes distracting work that it's required of a teacher. So we said, let's do that. And we built Merlyn, the first digital assistant that is custom built for the classroom. This means that it understands what a teacher asks for when it says, go to my Kahoot or Nearpod or open my Google Slides presentation. Like it understands the tools and applications in the classroom. And it then simplifies work so that teachers can do more in less time, so they can focus more on their students using what we call multimodal control. That's really a mouthful, right? What it means is do what you want when you want to do it. So if you want to speak, speak. If you want to push a button on the remote control, do that. If you want to touch the interactive panel, do that. We want teachers to be able to interact with technology in whatever way is easiest for them, which means you've got to build a system that understands them and that works across all the tools they use. And that's what Merlyn Mind did, was we built Merlyn specifically for classrooms. And the first most important part was, how do you make a voice assistant private, secure, and operational in the classroom environment? And that took some really big strategic choices on our company's side to basically say, we're never going to sell any customer data. We don't need to capture these voices and use these recordings for any other thing other than helping teachers and students with learning in the classroom. And we are built to support schools in the teaching and learning, right? Like, we are here for one purpose only, which is to advance teaching and learning to support the needs of schools. I think it's fun just to see it. So let's give you an example here of a classroom using Merlyn.
I didn't realize I was taking a little time here, a little time there, being kind of stuck up at the front of the classroom to do these simple tasks. So it just makes the classroom run more smoothly. And I'm sure you guys, as you do more research, you're gonna have more questions. Next. And the time to spend with the students is really like the focus, right? Is that I'm not stuck up at the front. I could be in like the other opposite end of my classroom talking with the student and tell Merlyn to pull up a tab or to Google something. Hey Merlyn, Google, what insulators are most effective? I also use Merlyn to just like switch to the next slide when I give PowerPoints, and it allows me to also switch back and forth between different tabs from across the classroom. So that's just like, that's amazing.
Kevin, any questions or thoughts after seeing this is one of our teachers who's been working with us in Southern California, El Sol Academy?
Yeah, well, it seems that she seems already very comfortable with the technology, right? And is that part and parcel of her being a young, innovative educator, or is it a part of the simplicity of the Merlyn service? Talk a little bit about how you've seen your first beta testers react to the technology.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we hoped that you wouldn't need any training to use Merlyn because it's so intuitive that you just talk to the technology. And we still aspire to that. And we have incredible people on our team across AI scientists and engineers to our chief design officer and her incredible team, our product managers, everyone basically aspiring to that idea that it should be so intuitive to use this technology that you wouldn't even have to train for it. You just pick it up, you start talking to it. So that's the goal, that's the standard. But as everyone kind of knows, and what's just real in a classroom is you need to give teachers guidance on how to best use this within the pedagogical approach they're using so that it fits into the classroom. And so we do focus on training and providing resources and helping teachers understand how to use it. But we have seen that it really doesn't matter if you're a young technology kind of proficient teacher or a more experienced teacher who is learning the new technologies that are coming into the class. Most people are used to using their voice, right? And that's kind of the power that we're building upon here is others have gone before us in our homes and our phones and our cars and taught us that sometimes it's easiest just to speak to technology. And that can save you a lot of time. We're building on that. So sometimes it's easiest just to speak to Merlyn. And people just kind of get that. Parts where they may not kind of understand is where we have to show them, did you know that we have these, we call them micro automations or shortcuts. Basically, I can do something like, hey Merlyn, add this to my Google Classroom. It grabs a resource, like a website I'm on, it brings that into Google Classroom. It literally opens my Google Classroom classes and it says, which class do you want to add it to? I can then say, oh, my science class. Post it right into the feed. And all of that is done in seconds instead of taking a lot of distraction and kind of breaking the flow of class. Well, not every teacher is going to know that that functionality is available. And so there is a lot of kind of discovery and education that we work on to make sure that all teachers understand for the tools and applications you're using to teach, this is how Merlyn can help you and how you can save time. And we do that both in the interface. So Merlyn is there visually on your screen, this represented by this beautiful orange ball that you see. You can always click on it and basically ask Merlyn for help, or Merlyn can show you things that it can do for you on that website. As well as we have a very robust kind of teacher user community where they talk about the ways they're using Merlyn to save time and really change the way they interact with technology as they teach.
Yeah. A question has come in from the audience asking what age groups have used Merlin. So this was a middle school setup here. Have you seen a distinction between, say, primary and secondary?
Yeah, good question. We have seen pretty much universal benefit of Merlin in classrooms from pre-K all the way up to university level. And the reason is Merlin is not a content platform. It's not a specific kind of quiz or solution for a certain age group or a certain discipline. Merlin is built and intended to be a assistant for teaching and learning of any type that uses technology. So if you are using digital resources, any type of website, any type of media, videos, content, regardless of the age, right? So whether that's a video on YouTube that's targeting kindergartners or whether it's a video on YouTube that's targeting college students, if you want to be able to control that video from the back of the room while you're engaging with your students and say, hey, Merlin, go to 3 minutes in the video. Hey, Merlin, play the video. Hey, Merlin, rewind 30 seconds. Class, let's watch that part again. Hey, Merlin, play the video. All of that now is possible. And it really doesn't matter if it's an advanced scientific topic or if it's a learn your ABCs topic. Like that same orchestration of technology is pretty universal in how people teach today at every discipline and at every age group.
And to be clear here, that this is a dynamic between Merlin and the teacher. I mean, do the students play a part in this at all, or do they interact with Merlin? I mean, I'm just thinking of myself in fourth grade, completely trying to mess with Merlin while my teacher's up trying to teach the class.
Yeah, that is a great question. In fact, I'll respond to your question first, and let's show a video of some of the students who have interacted with Merlin and have seen it in action and what it kind of means for them. So first,
Sure.
Before we ever even built Merlin, and we were out talking conceptually about what would it mean to have a voice assistant in the classroom and how could it help you and your students, every teacher's first question is always, but are my students going to take over? Are they going to be yelling out, hey, Merlin? Are they going to be disrupting and pulling up their favorite song? And so we were pretty concerned about that. In fact, we spent a long time looking at, is there a AI technology solution to this, right? Could we have a voice signature that our AI is only listening to your unique voice print, you, the teacher, Kevin. So anytime Levi or someone else speaks, it doesn't recognize them. And this is technically and theoretically possible, but it's a very heavy lift and it's not a perfect solution. But we basically said we could go down that path. But once we got into piloting, and this is the kind of the benefit of being in schools and learning, what we heard from every teacher was, my students love Merlin and they love to interact with it. And it's often a reward that the teacher is using to say, who's going to ask Merlin questions today? Who can help control the remote for me today? And it ends up being a behavioral reward. The teacher can always mute the Symphony Classroom device that has the far field microphones so that the Merlin will only listen when you push to talk on the remote. So they have ultimate control over who can give commands. But what we realized was students want to engage. This is part of the way that they're learning, and taking control of their learning is also now working with Merlin when they have a question, when they want a resource, when they want to watch the video that is going to instruct them on this topic. So we've learned that it's not nearly as concerning as teachers think it's going to be once they get in the classroom and they have complete control over it, and the students end up loving it. But this is a small video showing a class from the UK. We're active in the United States and the UK right now. And you can see some of the student reactions of what they have experienced with Merlin now being in the classroom.
Maybe we need Merlin. All right. Well, we have a bit of a technical snafu. Maybe in the meantime, another question has come in. Oh, go
What's
ahead.
wrong? What's wrong?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see the video.
Oh. Was I not sharing? Did I not share?
No.
Okay, let's start that again. My bad.
It's all right.
It would have been nice to say, hey, Merlin, share the video. That would have been a lot more effective.
Exactly right. Yeah, we need to integrate it into Zoom.
Okay, let's do this again. Share this here. Okay, do you see it now?
Ta-da.
Okay, here we go.
For me, the most powerful thing about Merlyn and artificial intelligence in the classroom is that it's already arrived at home. It's already arrived in the car. It's already arrived in most parts of our life, but it's not in the classroom. Children spend more time in the school than they do anywhere else. And for the school to have this major tool missing seems to me to be an error that we can correct easily by inviting Merlyn into the classroom and making use of it.
I think it's really good for the teachers because it's a lot easier. Instead of coming back and forth to the computer and going on to the next slide, they can just say, go to the next slide.
Full screen. Okay, girls, so today we're learning about subtracting fractions, and we're going to start by watching a video.
I have a very strong view as a pedagogue educator that it's really important that we learn how to give children control over their education, control over the learning, control over the examples, the points they need to make.
So 10/18 take away 9/18 is 1/18.
Round of applause for Faye.
I really love how the teachers can move about the classroom freely and really interact with the students when they're asking him a question or something, or if they're stuck.
I love the fact that schools are embracing this technology, and we're going to give an opportunity that our youngsters need for the future, because the voice is going to be with them forever.
No, Levi, it's almost not fair to be using British kids in some of these marketing things, because everything just sounds so pleasant and sophisticated. So
These are wonderful. There's a wonderful school, wonderful group there that we've been able to work with.
Yeah, and that really did answer my question about having the children be involved in the dynamic, and so that was a really good piece to show. So thank you. One of the things I love about having interactive questions here during the presentations that I always get that question that cuts right to the heart. One of the audience members has come in and said, what is the cost of Merlyn? Maybe we could talk a little bit about how this is integrated and what the pricing looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So Merlyn is a digital assistant that is a software solution, right? That lives in our device, this Symphony Classroom device, but it also lives in your laptop. It controls the content in your applications, right? So when you buy Merlyn, you buy both the hardware solution, which is called Symphony Classroom, as well as a subscription to the AI that continues to get better every year, right? So you continue to get upgrades for the applications it integrates with and the kinds of shortcuts and things that it delivers. So that retail price for that is $1,699 for a 3-year license of all of the SaaS and subscriptions and updates and kind of continual improvements to the package that comes into the classroom. You can buy it from anyone that sells Promethean. We work with Promethean as our exclusive distributor. So anyone that sells Promethean panels also sells the Symphony Classroom solution. So go talk to those folks and you can learn about special pricing for you and your school, right? The retail $16.99, but I know that there's different opportunities for schools to get it at different prices depending on the relationship they have with their partners and the volume, how many units they're putting in their classroom and things like that.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that relationship with Promethean. This is a recent development, right, within this year?
Right. This has been a really exciting evolution in the history of Merlyn Mind. So we have been around now for about 5 years. We spent the first few in secret in the startup world. You call it stealth mode, right? We didn't tell anybody what we were doing. We were heads down just trying to figure out how to build this correctly and talk to teachers and figure it out. But we've been out now in the market for 1.5 years, almost 2 years, kind of showing people what we're doing and getting our technology into classrooms. And what became very clear to us is AI is positioned to completely transform how humans interact with technology as they work. In every industry, not just education. We think everyone will eventually be doing work better with AI. It's going to make it simpler for us to get work done. We are building the best application of this for education and focus there because we believe it will have really big and powerful impact on our future. If we help students learn and we make it easier for teachers to teach and we keep that as a thriving profession and we get more educated people in our planet, we think things get better. So as we looked at how to do that, what we realized was it's going to be really hard to build this AI solution that really is custom built for education, that understands what teachers and students need, that's built with privacy and security necessary for this environment, and that continues to get better and better and do more and more things that teachers and students want it to do, so that Merlyn is really helpful in the classroom. We are a small team, right? And we can't do all of these things. And what we realized was there have been some really exciting, innovative products that have come into classrooms over the last few decades that have changed how students and teachers interact with technology. And one of those was interactive flat panels that allowed teachers and students to now interact with content with touch, which was a huge leap forward in terms of how natural technology was to interact with. So much better than a mouse and a keyboard. Touch is very intuitive. Any child, a 2-year-old, knows exactly how to touch and interact with these kinds of displays. So we looked at Promethean as the market leader in interactive flat panel technology that had brought this cutting edge technology into the classroom. And we basically said, we kind of met a few times and realized that our visions were so similar. This idea that we want to build technology that helps teachers. We want to get out of the way so that teachers can just teach, and we want to use the best of new technology to do that in ways that were previously unimaginable. We saw an opportunity to create an alliance where they, with all of their relationships, Promethean has people that are selling amazing technology into every school basically across the whole globe, could now bring Merlyn right into those classrooms too. It would have taken us a long time on our own to get Merlyn into every classroom and to show people what it is and to help them understand how it can help in the classroom. So it's allowing our team, that's primarily technologists and scientists and innovators that are working at the cutting edge of how do you build AI for education, to focus on building AI for education. And then working with Promethean, this innovator that's been bringing technology into classrooms and transformational technology into classrooms for the last 3 decades, to help us do that faster, right? So we're really excited that this means you'll soon see Merlyn in classrooms near you, right? Every school will start to see Merlyn as a solution to help their teachers.
Another question from the audience. This is great. I appreciate all the interaction here. But someone asking if, and this is kind of a good question, is this a district cell? I mean, you see, when we talk about Promethean, I'll date myself here. I think about whiteboards, interactive whiteboards. Was always the big deal with Promethean, and those were always kind of district installations, right? I mean, depending on the size of the district, they would bring it in. Are you seeing this as part of an overall district implementation, like every classroom will have one, or do you see sometimes where there might be a pilot project where one classroom will get it and then they'll kind of find out? Talk about those dynamics a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm not going to pretend to speak for Promethean. They know their business much better than I do. But what I do think we've seen collectively as an industry is when a new technology comes out, like an interactive whiteboard 25 years ago and is cutting edge, brand new, it takes some time for schools to realize the benefits, the value, the reason to put it in every classroom. So is our schools going to put Merlyn in every classroom tomorrow? We do have some of our early schools that started with, so again, we've only been out in market for just over a year, right? Some of our early schools, they bought 5 of them, right? To pilot with a small community. Then they said, oh, this is working really well. Let's put it in one of our schools. Then they bought 25 of them. Then they said, you know what? This is really exciting. We want to pilot in a few other schools and a few other the kind of like in science and STEM and across disciplines. And so then they've said, we're going to buy 100 of these. Then now the same school district just came to us this week actually and said, we want to put one in every classroom, and they're placing an order for 1,000 of them, right? And so within 1 year, we went from pilot to expansion to now in every classroom. I think just like we saw with interactive whiteboards, most schools are going to need to pilot and understand and see the value, and then they're going to expand when they see that this is beneficial for every one of my teachers. Eventually, we think we'll get to the point where schools won't need to pilot anymore. They'll know Merlyn, they'll have heard about it, they'll see that this is a powerful solution that every teacher needs in every classroom. But we understand reality, right? If you've never seen this, you don't understand it, you don't know what it is, then yes, we welcome pilots. Our experience has been you need a community of practice, right? So we really push for get a group of at least 5 teachers. If you're going to pilot it, don't just put it in one classroom. You need 5 teachers who can collectively experiment with different things, try different approaches, understand how it fits into the pedagogy of that school, so that collectively they can build each other and learn this new technology and share best practices and really kind of start a fire that shows this could be the way that we teach in the future. This could simplify the way we teach and how we have more time for instructional time and our students. So that's, Yes, come talk to us about piloting. We love pilots, and we think that eventually it'll be in every classroom, but we are realistic. It takes a little time to get there.
Yeah. At the beginning, you were talking about when you surveyed the teachers and what they needed, and where they said that they have enough apps already. That they have these, and in that description in both videos, actually, you saw the teacher talking, with Merlyn. How can teachers effectively control the apps and the tools that they're already using in the classroom? So I think you mentioned, Merlyn, take me to Kahoot. Do they continue to be able to interact in Kahoot with the voice prompts? Can he go a little deeper into that?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, maybe I'll just walk you through some of this if that's okay. Because I think the seeing is believing here, right? So how can Merlyn help? One of the key foundational principles that we built the company on was we need to meet teachers where they are. We kind of started originally with this idea of maybe we can build a new environment with new videos and content and pictures and resources, and teachers would come over into our realm, into this different universe where they can interact with Merlyn and they can use these resources. But it just was too much change, right? Like their teachers already have these apps, they already have their laptop, they already have their interactive panel, they have all of these tools they're already using. And so we realized we actually have to bear that burden ourselves. We have to build a solution that's smart enough and uses AI in a way that goes into those applications and into those devices and helps control those things in a way that's natural for teachers without them having to do the work, right? So what that means now is if you think about Merlyn Mind, how it comes into a classroom, you'll see you have the large device that looks like a speaker. We call it an AI hub. It is Symphony Classroom. It has far-field microphones in it, so you can say, hey, Merlyn, from across the room, it'll hear you. It has computing in it, right? It's an actual computer that does a lot of edge AI processing. And then you see the remote. The remote is a very critical piece of this because what we learned was voice isn't always the right way. Sometimes you just want to push a button. Sometimes you want to push to talk without saying, hey, Merlyn. The remote also has an interactive air mouse on it. So from anywhere in the room, you can point and click and interact with anything on the screen. So it brings all of those modalities to bear. You can speak, you can push, you can point, you can click. And then you have your laptop, which often is the kind of content repository where a teacher is bringing that in. They might have a bunch of tabs already open. They may have prepared for this lesson in advance at home or during their prep session. And then you have you have some type of display, right? So here you see you have an active panel, a Promethean interactive panel, but you could also have a projector or a non-interactive television, but whatever is using to project content so that all students can see it at the same time. What Merlyn does then is it offers you a lot of different ways to control those apps and those resources you're already using. So you asked about like Kahoot. We'll get to Kahoot next. But for example, like with a presentation, I now can say things like, hey, Merlyn, start my presentation. And it will go into Google Drive, grab that presentation, open it, and you can present it. When we started a little over kind of a few years ago, we only worked with the Chrome browser. We now work with the Microsoft Edge browser as well. So whether you're a Microsoft school or a Google school or whatever kind of your toolkit includes, Merlyn is really expanding to interact across all of those different platforms. Same thing if we see a lot of timers and alarms, right? So from anywhere in the room, I can say, hey, Merlyn, set an alarm, set a timer, like let's break into groups. Let's do a station rotation session. I can share content, as I mentioned before, on a Google Classroom LMS, or if you're using a different LMS, this same type of shortcut can be built there in the future, which is grabbing content from one place. Hey, Merlyn, add this resource to my Google Classroom. Grabs it, goes to Google Classroom, asks you what class, posts it right in there. Same thing with, I can switch displays, right? So you can go across. So if I have a microscope or a document camera or my laptop or an Apple TV or whatever other devices I may be using in the classroom, I can now say, hey, Merlyn, switch to my laptop. Hey, Merlyn, switch to my microscope. It allows me the ability now to switch sources with simple voice commands. I can search across different websites, right? So you asked about, I think it was Kahoot. We see whether it's Kahoot, Nearpod, Quizlet, Newsela, like Khan Academy. We've done deep integrations with all of those applications I've just mentioned and many more, so that I can say things like, hey, Merlyn, search for whales on Newsela or search for algebra videos on Khan Academy, and I can jump right to that application. I'm already signed in because I'm on my browser on my laptop, right? It does searches, pulls up content, and then I can navigate and control that content with voice command and with the interactive remote control or with touch on my active panel Promethean board, right? So did that answer the question you were asking, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see where it gets in deep. And again, it prompted another question from the audience. Does Siri and Merlin get along? Do they know each other out in the...
That is a wonderful question. So they don't know each other yet.
Okay.
If you look at what's happening in the broader AI assistant voice world, we do think in the future voice assistants will know each other. And you'll be able to say, hey, Merlin, can you ask Siri to do this? Hey, Merlin, can you ask Alexa to do that? Like, we think there will be more interaction with assistants in the future. Today, Merlin doesn't know those assistants because Merlin is focused on the classroom. It is built specifically for the classroom with classroom environments. Those other assistants aren't really built for the classroom. They don't have the same focus and same kind of privacy policies and things like that. So we're in the classroom just for the classroom.
Right. Well, how about in terms of working with Mac OSs and things like that? Do you have the integration there?
Definitely. So we work on, as long as you have a Chrome browser or an Edge browser, it doesn't matter what device you're using. You can use a Mac laptop, Windows laptop, right?
Gotcha.
And I think I figured I'll just real quick show the rest of these and we can stop this. So
Yeah,
one
sure.
of the things we see teachers love doing, I mentioned this before, but this idea of I now have really granular control over watching videos, whether it's a YouTube video or from a different platform, being able to say things like, hey Merlin, go to 1 minute and 30 seconds, or hey Merlin, rewind the video 45 seconds. Hey Merlin, start at the beginning. Those simple voice commands during a video, turns out with all videos teachers are using as they teach, every single time it's back to the front, back. And you're literally running back and forth across the room a lot. So all of that goes away and you can just stay engaged and focus. So and then we talked a little bit about that. We can talk more, but any other questions before I jump in there?
No, nothing from the audience right now. Why go for it?
Let's see. I think I talked a little bit about the Merlyn Mind and Promethean Alliance. Let me just show an example of actually using Merlin on an active panel. So again, I mentioned we kind of came together in this alliance because Promethean is always looking around the corner and saying, like, what's the next technology that we need to be aware of that can help teachers in classrooms? And we kind of met there, like the melding of the minds, like AI and voice plus interactivity on your panels can really add a lot of combined value in the classroom. So here's an example, just a very brief video. It's actually an instructional example showing some of our teachers and our customers how to use Merlyn Mind and use Merlin on their active panel.
You can speak to Merlin from anywhere in the classroom. Speak to it directly like this. Hey Merlin, go to my Google Drive. You can also speak to Merlin using the push-to-talk button on the remote control. To use it, simply press the button, speak your request, and then let it go when you're finished. Go to my Nearpod. Remember, you do not have to say Hey Merlin when using the push-to-talk button on the remote. You can speak to Merlin from anywhere in the...
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up an interesting thought for me. So you probably have a certain generation of teacher who has become very comfortable with a whiteboarder, right? Or they created a career around using the whiteboarder. Now they have interactive displays. Like, you don't necessarily have to use the voice commands, right? You mentioned that before. I mean, they could just go up to the display and click through to all their stuff if they're more comfortable with that dynamic.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, we think it's more powerful when you use all of the different types of ways you can engage, interact with learning content. So if you kind of think about, just rewind a few decades, like you used to have to project with a overhead display or like write something on a chalkboard or whiteboard. So you had like a few modalities, like I could basically see content, or maybe if I was a student, I would come up and I'd write something. But it wasn't an interactive media. It wasn't kind of the level of engaging video and audio that comes into the classroom today that can really light students' minds on fire, right? In a good way.
Right.
So then you eventually get things like interactive whiteboards and then interactive flat panels, and you get more and more of these amazing applications that are being built for education, like a Kahoot or a Newsela or Khan Academy or whatever, that are now bringing more and more interactivity into the classroom. Well, we think touching those on the interactive panel is an incredible experience for a student, right? It lights their mind up. They're so excited. They're engaged. They're part of the learning process. We also think when the teacher is kneeling next to a group of students in the back of the room and they don't want them at the board, but they just want to see something really quickly, saying, hey, Merlyn, pull up today's agenda, the schedule, the lesson plan, whatever it is, keeps the learning motion in flow. So you're not breaking it constantly and slowing everything down and kind of getting potentially bad behavior. So that there's this use the right tool for the right moment and have all of them available is the basic kind of principle we're following as we look into the future. Touch the interactive panel, speak to Merlyn, push the remote, automate a workflow so that you don't have to go do all those steps after class. Have it done for you by Merlyn in the moment. All of that makes for a better, we think, environment for teaching and learning to thrive.
And so once you have these tools in place and the processes in place by the teacher, then we're getting to a point of simplicity, right? Mm-hmm. It seems like simplicity seems to be the key to being able to make artificial intelligence really thrive.
Yeah, I think that's right. Simple enough that any teacher, regardless of their age, regardless of their training, regardless of their subject area focus, should be able to accomplish what they want to accomplish as a teacher in that moment more easily, more naturally, more quickly with AI, so that less and less of their time is focused on mastering the application du jour, whatever platform they're using, whatever new application, whatever new content repository. They're spending less and less time on that and more time on, I understand Levi's needs today. I understand Kevin's needs today. I understand this person and that person's needs today, and I can focus on helping them connect dots, have aha moments, and make progress.
Which brings us to another kind of aspect of our present day realities and the idea of technostress. So these teachers have enough on their plates, right, to then have this. So to add in this simplicity, you talk a little bit about where when you've been working with these pilot projects, where the technostress comes in and how that's resolved.
Yeah, let me show something quickly here. Every teacher, every administrator, they know this intuitively. But for people who aren't in the classroom, it's kind of shocking to realize just how much a teacher is juggling as they teach in the modern day classroom, right? So there's data from Learn Platform and others that look at how many applications are being used in a classroom. And it is literally thousands, right? So an average school district in the United States is accessing over 1,400 different websites and EdTech resources, applications every month. And in a given classroom, a teacher is accessing dozens and dozens and dozens of applications and resources and websites themselves throughout a month and every day as they teach, right? So then you look at the proliferation of one-to-one that happened as a result of the pandemic, right? Before the pandemic, you had middle schools and high schools, 60-ish% of every school kind of had one-to-one device deployments, and then elementary schools, it was less than 50%, right? But it's we don't necessarily need them in every classroom. Pandemic hit and boom. Now you had 90% plus in middle schools, high schools, and almost elementaries, right? 84% still in elementaries with students at one-to-one devices. So you basically ended up with this perfect storm of challenges that teachers have to deal with, right? And that idea of technostress is really focused on more or less what we thought technology could directly impact, right? There's a lot of stress that technology is not going to eliminate. If I, as a teacher, have marital problems at home, Merlyn's not going to help with that. If I have, you know what I mean?
That would be artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Merlyn's therapist.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things in your life, in a student's life, in the school district, around human interactions that are going to cause you stress for one reason or the other. We really isolated what is within our control. What can Merlyn and the artificial intelligence solution we're building help with to make it easier to teach and make teaching and learning better in a classroom? We focus on technostress because technostress has been seen for decades now across many different industries as you look at what happens when people are required to work with technology and what type of stress does that introduce into their life. The fact that they have to learn new platforms, learn new tools, learn the menus of those tools, learn which functions in those applications help them get work done that they need to get done. And all that has a real impact on my ability to work because I may or may not be an expert at everything. I don't know how to do the exact right thing I need to do. And that adds to all the other human stress I have that come in all shapes and sizes for all different reasons. What we found, we did a study with the University of California, Irvine. Actually, let me just show you the results from that. First, I guess I'll explain why it matters. So here's a really concrete example. When I need to open a presentation as a teacher, this is kind of a diagram of all the steps it takes, and then think about like the time each of these steps takes, the decisions mentally I'm thinking about, like the cognitive load it takes, and then the physical interactions I have to do with technology. So you can think about it like I first have to walk to the computer. That takes time. I got to walk up there. Then I have to like push a button on the computer to turn it on. Then I need to type in my password potentially, or use my thumbprint or whatever it is to unlock the computer. I need to then open the browser. I need to open the specific application like Google Drive. I need to navigate to the folder. I need to find the specific file. I need to open that file, and then I need to push present. It seems like we don't think or do anything when we open a presentation on our computer, but we didn't realize we just did all of these things. And they add up to time and to cognitive load and to distraction and to frustration and stress. Every time we're interacting with any kind of technology in the classroom, it has the potential to add more of this burden to our lives, right? We looked at that and said, how can Merlyn interact and kind of change this situation? And we got to the point where we said, well, if we understand the applications and we understand the desire of the teacher and we simplify it all down to a simple voice command, then I just say, hey, Merlyn, open my presentation and start presenting, right? It's one simple voice command, one simple interaction to decrease all of that time and energy. That was the hypothesis of what a voice assistant built just for education could do, this digital assistant to help simplify teaching and the work that teachers do in the classroom. And what we found was it worked, and it is working, right? So we did this study with the University of California, Irvine and Digital Promise, two fantastic organizations focused on how can you really push teaching and learning forward with new technologies. And what the data showed, what we were so excited about, was in very short amounts of time, right? As short as 7 weeks, you saw pretty dramatic impact in teachers decreasing their technology-related stress, this technostress, right? Of feeling uncomfortable with the apps they needed to use and the technology they needed to use and how much time and energy was devoted to it. And then on the flip side of that, real recognition that that time that they were saving was now being used on instruction, right? That I, as a result of not having so much stress and so much work just managing the technology, am now focusing more on my students and spending more time on instructional needs of students, was thrilling to us. And it just made us that much more committed to Merlyn really belongs in every classroom in the world. It is going to help teachers and students and change the way we interact with technology for the better.
Well, that's pretty insightful stuff right there. That's some good data. And I knew the toughest part of this conversation would be to end it, but we are getting close to the top of the hour. And I wanted to make sure that we wrapped up with kind of getting a look inside your crystal ball. I mean, where you see Merlyn's, maybe a 3 to 5 year time horizon, if all things are going well and all things being equal. Talk about the continuous advance of AI, maybe in a big picture sense, and then specifically where you see it with Merlyn.
Yeah, great question, Kevin. So I love to listen to our CEO, Satya Nitya, talk about his vision of the future of AI, right? He has been at the very beginnings of the modern revolution, starting at IBM with Watson and seeing what's happening. And some of the language that he often uses is like, AI is advancing at a thrilling pace. Like he uses these really exciting adjectives because he sees that we as a society are on the precipice of AI unlocking new capabilities that we just couldn't imagine. And it's not the kind of fear things like you and I talked about before. It's not so much that we need to be worried that suddenly computers are going to steal our jobs and we're going to be left by the wayside. It's much more of this idea that we as a planet and as a species face a lot of big challenges. And we see them every day, right? Across the world, in our own homes, in our own school districts, we have lots of challenges, and some of them feel insurmountable. And what we believe at Merlyn Mind is that AI working with humans unlocks solutions that previously weren't possible. That we can see human progress happen because people are going to start working with technology, with AI, in ways that really enable the human to be, I don't know, sometimes we use the word even like superhuman. Like we'll do more than we ever thought we could do once we have assistants and AI solutions that understand us and that are there to do things for us so that we can be more effective and productive and more focused on the things that we as humans are just really good at, right? Like understanding other humans and connecting with them and inspiring them and motivating them. So if you kind of look, you said crystal ball 3-5 years forward, we really believe that this will be a turning point in how teachers interact with computing, with technology, because AI is now allowing human-like interaction, whether it's touch on the interactive active panel or voice control with Merlyn, the digital assistant built for education. It's going to be so much more natural for humans to interact with computers in classrooms that technology will be almost invisible. It's seamless. It's just all around us, but we're not thinking about it because it's just doing what we need it to do. As a result, you're going to get more and more innovation from teachers, from educators. They're the ones that best understand how teaching and learning really works. But we just see so many incredible teachers, right? And so you basically see, if you look 3 or 5 years forward, we can't wait to see what teachers are going to show us at what's possible when you get technology out of their way and you just let them command and control all of the resources and tools and applications that are available to them without thought almost. Now it's just natural to get done exactly what I want to get done as a teacher when I want to get it done. And technology obeys me, basically, does what I need it to do, and I can focus on the student. So we think that is a bright and promising future, and we're committed to helping bring it to pass by making Merlyn more interactive with more devices, more applications, more workflows, more of the things that teachers need Merlyn to do.
It's interesting you say that, because it really is essential for the educators to be the leaders in terms of the use of the technology, right? I mean, that's where the true innovation comes in. I mean, you can create something, a discovery, but it's once it becomes innovation, where it becomes a weed and it spreads. And it seems like you have that technology here. It seems that some of your initial beta testers and front runners really seem to be taking to it. So congratulations on many years of development. Congratulations on your new relationship with Promethean, which is certainly world class. And I really look forward to watching your continued success. And I hope you let us follow along.
Well, I can't wait till we connect again, Kevin. Every time I talk to you, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. So I do see that our time is just about up. So I'm going to wrap things up here. I'd like to thank Levi today for a very informative presentation. And I'd also like to thank all the audience members for joining us as well. As I said, your questions made all the difference there. As a reminder, you'll get an email within the next few days that contain a link to this recording along with the slides. Thanks again for participating, and have a great day. Thanks, Levi.
Thanks all.